I think particularly it's why I particularly have a love for like word bearer stuff. The word bearers are the ones which like I love because they generally are terrifying, because they just basically at the end of the day go, listen, I'm gonna torture you because it works. And they just go, if I do this to you, a little bit of demon power will work for me. So I'm just gonna do it to you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome back to LoreCrimes. Hello, everybody. A little bit different. I have now moved into a new place. Hello. Also,
where is it? Well, for the audio listeners, there's a special guest.
Hey,
there's
Russell.
a dog. There's a dog.
Yes.
Russell is chilling with me.
A second dog has struck LoreCrimes.
And he has his Krusty Krabs plushy toy. So if you hear any squeaking, that's him chomping on that. How are we all? How are we?
I would say, speaking of chomping on it, it's a big topic today, isn't it?
Spin on it, Dio? No.
Spin on. It's a big topic today because we got a cool one. Apparently, we looked at Warhammer 40k and we went, you know what? I really wish to not sleep at night. I want to scare every middle-aged parent out there with my setting. We need to make Warhammer more grimdark, more terrifying, more nightmare fuel. This did come from my brain, so there's not more tentacles. That's not going to be one of the answers immediately. I'm just putting that out there now. But yeah, guys, we got some. We should start the podcast by saying, first of all, we are on offline stuff, Spotify, all that good stuff. But also, we should ask: is 40k still grimdark? Would you say it's a grimdark universe?
Would you like to go first, Colin?
I mean, I'd say it is more than it isn't. It's definitely lost some of the spice it used to have.
Yeah.
You look at the old artwork, right? Everything is dirty. And like, I don't, not like, like intentionally, like it's grimy, it's gross. Like old Mechanicus artwork, God, they need like a bath. But like, it's just, like, it's gross and grimy and everything looks bad and horrid. And nowadays it's like, I always think of that one artwork of Gilliman with a halo over his head. Like Terra and I think like Mars and stuff like comes together to look like a halo, and he's got angel wings. And I'm like, you're pulling back on everyone being an asshole. You kind of given me just what is pretty clearly the unironic hero I'm supposed to root for. And I'm like, you kind of lost me a little bit in terms of like, everyone being evil. So it's also a little bit of grimdark.
Because there is that like aesthetic from the 90s. When I think of things like Akira and some of these like grimy, dirty, lots of mechanical gribblies, lots of wiring. Like you look at like a vintage Iron Warrior image, and there's all like, it's so complex of how much stuff is going on. You kind of have to like squint and focus to see exactly what's going on. And I liked that aesthetic of Warhammer. You had things like what's the Iketo Sicarius? Is it something Reach, Fall of
Blackreach?
Blackreach.
Blackreach? Yeah, Blackreach. It has that kind of 90s aesthetic, 80s aesthetic. And I know Voldemort, for example, did a recent video where he ranted about how Warhammer is no longer a setting, it's a story. And I understand that, like...
I see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
See where he's coming from with that one.
I say, I don't know, like, but yeah, before today we're gonna dive and delve into each faction, and we're gonna explain ideas that we have into how we think we could, let's say, grimdark it up a bit. That's a hell of a catchphrase, isn't it?
Grimdark my heart.
Yes. And for the Subway Surfer enjoyers, we do have some Dawn of War for you guys as well.
And I even have Kickstart My Heart. You should definitely in the background look up Kickstart My Heart, but you're dogfighting over Coruscant. Also, Andy, again, another quick thing before we start. You seem to have given me unlimited power.
Oh, how have I done this?
I
don't know how
don't
I've done
know,
this.
but I'm in. I'm into the mainframe.
Colin was
Get
in
off
control
that.
of
Get off
the
that right
visuals
now.
there. Uh-oh.
Messing around.
You know what, guys? Let's start big and strong. Let's start with what is described as the grim, the horrible empire, the grimdark future. It is the Imperium of mankind. And to be fair, let's start with the assessment. Do we think the Imperium of Man is pretty grim dark? Like, does it meet that threshold still? Has it lost its charm a bit? Are we falling from the wayside? Like, what do you guys think?
It's kind of fallen off a little bit.
Mhm.
It's still pretty grim. There's still plenty, you get novels and it's like, yeah, there's still a servitor there and they're still just not acknowledging that's horrific. So, it's still got that grimdark spice a bit.
There are moments though, even in the Horus Heresy, like I can't remember which book it is, but it's one of the early ones, and it's like this was when humanity was trying to be like, let's emancipate everyone and be peaceful, and then there's like an offhand line was just like, and then the lobotomized servitor gave the ammunition. You go,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
No,
It's snuck in there.
there's still plenty of messed up stuff. I would just say like now you kind of have to look for it a little bit more.
Do you think that's possibly because, like a lot of the earlier stories, they were establishing that, and then in some way it's already been established, so therefore a lot of novels or codexes or stuff that we read now, they don't feel the need to like basically establish the basics again? Do you think they're not doing enough to like, hey, let's go back to our roots a bit here?
It could be, but I think the problem with that is that they're unestablishing too hard in some ways. Like now you're around where you're trying to make all like you have a guy who's like a genuine, like you portray him as a hero, right? He's the standout. Well, when the next 20 guys also are just kind of heroic, we're losing.
Well, if I may reference what I watched Voldemort's video today, and he was all about like all the stuff in the new Armageddon box set. It's it's all about Dante, Marneus Calgar, Gilliman, Primarchs, blah blah. So these days he's a bit despondent with how you can no longer just have a bunch of captains who will never really be a drop in the bucket because they're expected to die. Therefore, it's lost a bit of the charm of that, like, oh, anyone could, kind of like the Game of Thrones thing where anyone can die. No one is inexhaustible. No one is inexpendable. And so in a way, Warhammer is now, because it's got so many characters and the characters have books, and Black Library is making more of those. And therefore there's all these main characters that takes away from the idea that any of them could die at any moment. And therefore it's lost a bit of its charm in that regard.
Do you think this is best exemplified by, once again, Yarick somehow returned or something?
Yes.
This is the Palpatine moment. Somehow Palpatine returned. I think, yeah. I was
not
like,
sure why they were even going to tease like Yarick's dead, but he's not. It's like, did we need that? You could have just not said that, and we would have been like, oh, it's Yarick again. Cool.
That one is so, because that one's also doubles. It's just like, why you just wasted my time with all this now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, starting with the Imperium of Man. Like, I will put my hat in the ring and say, like, if you ever read or if someone listened to Eisenhorn lore, there's a thing you get when you're with like normal Inquisitor characters or like human characters, which like it very well establishes like this is a churning war machine, and most people live in, basically hive cities, which we know to be obviously like a city, and then you put another city on top of the city, and then the city is so big that sunlight doesn't reach the bottom of the first city underneath the other city. People eat protein made of other people, like protein gruel bars, and I think to that Darktide, like people have played Darktide, something that gets across quite well. Like I think the established tone of Warhammer, but they've almost eased off a bit in terms of the Imperium of Man. I'd say the disregard for human life, as in like they there's a bit too more of like, do you think in some way like you get the impression like they value people again, which is like a very like Horror's Heresy 30k mindset, like Return of Gilliman, all that stuff. So the first thing I would do is you need to have more characters and more stories of like normal humans who you're willing to kill off. 100% willing to kill, like, but also ones where people die just. So go ahead.
Because the thing is, like, I think one of the reasons that Game of Thrones lost its charm as like the biggest show on television at the time, and like I watched all of the series as they came out from about season 3, so I had like a few to catch up, and I really loved it. And when we were in Dublin, me and Colin and I think Eli were chatting about like I think you and Eli hadn't watched it. And you're like, oh, it's like no, it's good fun. But then after like season 4, it lost the charm of anyone could die. Sean Bean died, and then it was like, yeah, but Tyrion's not going to die, and Cersei's not going to die until the last episode, and it's like,
and then they added bad writing.
Then they added the bad writing, and it was just like, wow. The problem is it betrayed its own ethos, and therefore it fell by the wayside. But using that as like a ballpark, which characters could you really kill off in Warhammer without causing a kerfuffle for the Space Marines? Because like I feel like if you killed Dante, people would have an uproar. They'd be like, no, you have his whole thing is that he's long suffering and he's like the oldest Space Marine, so you can't kill him. It's like, okay, can we kill Bjorn? No, because he's the same, but he's a dreadnought. Okay, can we kill Marneus Calgar now that Rute Gillen's back? Oh no, he's a classic. You can't kill Marneus. Okay,
you could certainly kill him. I say, but starting with just the Imperium of Mankind, the amount that Inquisitor books do so well in like painting the absolute horror that is the most. Do you know what it really doesn't get across anymore? In I think it's an issue with the Imperium Man where like when Gilliman returns, is this still the most, in quotes, cruelest, most bloodiest regime imaginable? Does that still ring?
I think Gilliman's
true?
return has taken a bit of that off, because his whole thing is he wants to like change the status quo, but I don't think we've seen enough of no Gilliman. That's not possible anymore. You have to be like the rest of the Imperium and curb stomp a child or whatever they do in the Imperium. It's like at a certain point, it's like this is the grim dark future. If we have too much, I'm just going to be a good boy and have no repercussions for just being overpowered, and therefore I can circumvent the grim necessity of it. I guess that's where it's going to fall flat. And I feel like Godblight, he's like, oh, I've been inhabited by the Emperor, and oh, look at me, oh. And I liked how in the 10th edition trailer, with 10th edition, where they were like, oh, we're not going to get victory against the Tyranids. I'm like, that's a good, yes, I like that. But then since then, it's like, oh, we're going back to Armageddon. I guess we're going to save Armageddon again. We're not going to let that planet die. Please let that planet die. I want Armageddon burned. I want it destroyed. I want it like cored. I want it to be peeled like an orange. I want it to be scattered. And then like, no more of that. Get rid of Armageddon. We're done with Armageddon, please. Katie's gone.
It's the same thing with like when Armageddon happened. So I would say a improvement to make something a bit more grimdark is actually be brave enough as well to let Imperial army books or other stuff campaign books that come out, like you would say, like once again we revisit Armageddon. Like Armageddon is like we've been sort of getting to the point here, like it's been cheapened, and I almost like if someone said like, oh, 1 billion people, 3 billion died in Armageddon, I kind of go, eh.
Like, well, even in the trailer, they're like, there's no tactical value. It's just out of spite, and we don't even have the Steel Legion. It's Cadians and like Kriegers. I'm like, well, just let it die then. Let it die. We don't need any more Armageddon.
I mean, Cadia died, and the Cadians are still here. So
yeah, they just have so many Voidborn. They're like, we can stick it out. It's fine. Like, here's the crazy thing, right, Hal? I'm positioning this to you, and I'm waiting for Colin's reaction on this. Is it about time, Hal, we let the first of the founding chapters die? And let's just say the Iron Hands die. What about we let the Iron Hands die, and then the Sons of Medusa could take up the mantle?
I would agree, but change one specific group in that.
All right.
Let them Imperial fists die so the Black Templars reign supreme.
No.
Because that is Grimdark. Because the Black Templars are like the worst. Like in the Heresy, they make a point to saying like you turned us into the Black Templars.
Yeah, Karn gets a vision of the Black Templars and is like, damn, that's messed up. That ain't right.
Yeah.
So
but the only reason I say that is because I'm like, Iron Hands, if they died, it would be like, all right, finally. Well, one, that, but also like their suffering is finally over. Then the Moray Schism could have a bit of birth. You have a new color scheme with like a not neon green, but it's different than Caliban or Salamander's green. They're not going to blend in with the Raven Guard. You add stakes of, a first founding chapter died. That's never happened before. Because you can't do it to the Blood Angels, you can't do it to the Ultramarines, you can't do it to the White Scars. I will not let you. So, like, Iron Hands can go on the chopping block, and then
maybe, but I'll save my opinion more for like when we get to the Space Marine segment on that, because I have Iron Hand opinions I wish to really vent there.
Oh yeah.
But I was saying for the Imperium of Man, the other part I'd add in here is there's another sub-faction we could talk about very quickly, which is, I would say like Adeptus Mechanicus kind of do Grimdark quite well so far. Again, like they should embrace a bit more. Like I hope they do more Dark Mechanicum stuff in the 11th, whatever. Like we get, I think there's a particular thing of Grimdark that doesn't happen as much is what's called like the body horror of it, and the like when like people are learning about Space Marine, they're supposed to get across that like when someone's turned into a Space Marine, they're not like a custodian where like they're still like a human but like larger and perfectly sculpted. A Space Marine needs to be like ugly, and
apart from Blood Angels,
apart from that, well, they could be like horrifically beautiful, you know what I mean? But the Adeptus Mechanicus stuff could, like, if you see on their Codex like covers, they actually have some things like that. But they need to do more. Like, why don't the Mechanicus have more things that are like penitent engines? Like generally, like you think for the faction that cares so little for humans, they would do something even more effed up.
Well, one thing I found was strange with there's been a recent Dawn of War 4 trailer about the Mechanicus commanders you get, and one's a Skitarii one's like a Magos, but they're both just kind of like humanoid, and I thought surely one of them could be a beetle. One of them's even like, oh, she can get like a plasma incinerator or this. And it's like, well, surely she can have 6 legs. That's very Mechanicus-y.
Get some bio horror, like body horror going. Let's make the Mechanicus not just metally. Make them gross.
Her into the General Grievous roly-poly disc. Go do something.
Turn her into this Buddha wheel. Not even him. Turn her into the wheel.
Yeah, roly-poly across the battlefield. Terrain bonus. Good. Rather than I just have legs. Like,
and it's like sometimes we get another banger like that, like the Mechanicus, like the tech priest that's all like bloated and like fat and he's kind of gross looking. That model's cool. Can we get more of him?
Even the lady who's now in the brand new like just end of 10th edition stuff with Armageddon, I think it is. She's like the Order Reductor like scion. I'm like, for a person who's all like, my thing is about being a weapon of war, she could look a lot more like messed up with like guns everywhere. It's like, come on, go crazy. This is the Mechanica. This is Warhammer. Go crazy. That's the whole thing. We got walking cathedrals. Come on. Give us something crazy.
I think that's also a good part as well. Like the kind of weird part about the Grimdark future is also it's a what's the word? Like it's not the Vatican, but it's like a religious a holy state as well. Like the Mechanicus are known obviously for worshipping the machine god. Why is there not like a big ass altar? like why are these guys not going into battle chanting their binaric hymns with some horrific display of like, you know, man and machine combined into some, like there should be again, like I think maybe embracing on the Mechanicum side more of that, their lack of humanity, or like humanity twisted into some weird like mix together, rather than just guy in red robe priest and he has a bionic eye. Like you can go harder than that.
there's even a bit I read through the Lysander stuff, and there was a bit there in a Star Fort, and it talks about how the data like hive where the machine spirit lives has all these like Mechanicus people plugged into it who are like shriveled prunes, and they're all just there kind of like, and then when this like virus attacks, they all shrivel up and die as like a protective measure, and they start to like wither instantly and turn to dust. I'm like, we could have like a Mechanicus 5G tower with like a bunch of tech priests plugged in, and they could all be like praying to the like antenna, and you could have a weird
Yeah.
like thing where it's like this is weird and horrific. Like man on stilts with gun is fun. Don't get me wrong, but
I
that
do
was
love
like
that. I do love that guy.
I
Yeah.
love
To
that
be
mini, but
honest.
also could we have some more of that? But also crazier. Could we have some roly poly guys like General Grievous? Please go on.
I think it's a thing of like when people were into Warhammer for quite a long time, or I've been playing Warhammer for a while. A lot of those people don't end up playing Space Marines, and there's a reason for that, which is at some point the Space Marine feels like too safe. Do you know what I mean? Like it's such a safe choice, and it
Mm,
doesn't embrace the wackiness and the horrifying nature of like I remember when I was learning about Warhammer years ago. I think it was like a Luton video where like he mentions how they refill a ship, and there's a guy who has to go out in the vacuum of space with like a special
yeah.
suit on, and he has to like he's dying by the second just to plug in this like there's not enough of like someone needs to die in a horrific way for no reason at all, because like
Yeah.
that's honestly what Grimdark comes out to be.
You
Like
need
it's
to
just
have like a
pointless.
book where it talks about a void ship when it runs out of fuel to like power its engines. It just chucks labor serfs into it to keep the fire going, just because they have so many of them. They're like, it's fine. Chuck Kevin in there. Go on. Why not? Like just needlessly cruel, needlessly like barbaric and silly, because that's the thing. It was like, well, what's the sanctity of life? Never heard of it. Because I think these days it's more like you can be like Astra Militarum, man with gun, times 100,000. That works. But man with gun, when it's Mechanicus, it's just really unimaginative. And it's like, man with a crazy gun, it's like, can't he just have like maybe he could like put his hands into the ground and it connects with like the Wi-Fi cables, and then he can like be a network and he becomes like an outpost that signals like a broadcast, and a big speak comes out of his mouth. Like, can't we do something crazy? Can't we do like body horror and weird stuff? It's like, no, man with gribbly gun. Okay.
Do you know what it is? The issue was that just on the Imperium of Man stuff, the disconnect is not like, because when you go through Warhammer lore, it's still like Grimdark. It's not really changed too much, but the people were there's obviously some instances where that's wrong, but the visual language has changed from Grimdark, and I know that's coming from a company who once had like goblin green bases, and then like they're very brightly
Yeah.
colored. They almost look like plastic toys, well, they are plastic toys, but like there was an era where that was not the case too. The issue is like the visual language, like when you look at like Codex art, the front cover of that's not the model you get. Like the Codex arts are often grimdark, but then the actual model is like quite clean. So I think that's where the disconnect is. Like you need to basically let lore have more of an influence on the design characteristics or tabletop stuff, like particularly for the Imperium of Man, because if they expand out the Inquisition stuff, that better have some like crazy stuff in it. Like they have demon hosts. Classic early, Eisenhorn lore established is the fact that people have demon hosts that I think they removed it. You couldn't, once the Imperial agents became an army, you couldn't have demon hosts, which obviously is like crazy stuff. That's one of the craziest things in there. It was like a person's body is then possessed by a demon and they're like damning their soul forever. So yeah. So guys, moving on to the next group. Well, basically we're still in the Imperium because we're finally going to talk about Space Marines. Space Marines themselves.
Space Marines.
I do like thinking back to the iconic Dark Crusade voice actor guy. The guy who's like, the Horus Heresy.
The Horus Heresy was a long time ago, and I believe that the orcs are all gits, and I hate them. The Space Marines are lovely. You should kiss them on the mouth. Cronus. Like that guy.
God, that guy does that's that's one of my favorite things in like video games. It's like the Horus Heresy was 3,000 years, and the word
The
bearers
Tau are a
It's
bunch
like,
of weeaboos. We should kill them.
they
That's
just
what it
they the Tau made all of the people sterile. Actually, that was actually surprisingly not far off there.
You
I
should
love
do
that
a
guy's
whole
voice.
video, Hal, one of your like multi-hour ones, just doing an impression of him.
Should I just do? You know what I should do, Andy? I should have a 3-hour video of me just shouting Scotland for 3 hours.
Scotland forever.
Scotland. Yeah, I love that. Space Marines though, because I got the impression when I was younger. Like, I have even from the poster of what is the Battle for Macragge. I said it before. I have the Battle of Macragge set. I've got the which Tyrannic War is that one again? Is that the third?
First
no,
one.
First one. Hold on. The first Tyrannic War, and I have this artwork of Calgar and like that infamous last stand, or not last stand, but like it's designed to be looking like that. And Space Marines, the amount that they get across like the visual language, like it's a grimdark universe, is so cool because I think particularly the equipment that they all have. What's happened with like the Primaris Marines is like the kind of, I guess they're trying to somewhat fix it now, which is like 40k when it was first born, they all had like all their things are relics. Do you know that iconic artwork of all of the Ultramarines like the lined up as a chapter, and they have that chaplain walking down the line, and its tone is so like gritty and it looks horrific. And I think they need to feel like you don't really see as many like Space Marine recruitment like stories as much anymore, which I always like. Anytime I'm I'm learning about a Space Marine character, like I like the Dante novels. I like some of the other ones, which like you get to see them before they're Space Marines, because then you get across how like horrible it is. Like when Dante is growing up on Baal, and like there's these thousands of children who are basically competing to just get to the front door of like the trials, and they go across like a whole desert, and then they almost die, and then there's a bit where like they all go to the top of this cliff, and they like create like these fake wings, so they because that's the only way to get to like the angels landing area, and they had to glide on these fake wings for like hours, and like Dante, who's not Dante yet, is describing it how when they Luis Dante, like when they're flying, he says like your arms start to like go numb, and after a while these predatory birds just start picking like off the kids in
don't drink the water
and
because
start
it's first
eating
water.
them. Like it gets across of like, bloody hell, like the amount they have to go through just to get to be a Space Marine.
Well, even again, just because I've read all of it recently with Lysander, when it's like, how did he get his start? Well, we don't know much about his training, but he was on a pilgrim ship, and his entire family and all of his like friends were murdered by a murderer on this ship on the way to Holy Terror, and then he survived that somehow, and then he was just gawking at like the pillar of bone where it's like the big monument to the Imperial Fists, and then a chaplain was just there, and he's just like, that's an Imperial Fist right there. I'm gonna recruit him. It's like,
look at him.
Where have you come from? Huh? I just survived the most horrible expedition. Come here, you. Get in the chapter. Poor fella.
Do you think, like, because Colin, you're not someone who's necessarily a Space Marine enjoyer. What kick do you not get out of Space Marines? Like, do you think they, like, what do you think? Like, do you think they've lost their grim darkness and that kind of erodes any interest?
I'm gonna be honest. We're gonna put aside games like Bolt Gun and Space Marine 2 because those are for fun video game purposes, right? I like those games, but I'm not like no one is playing Space Marine 2 for the epic Titus lore. I'm sorry. We are doing that to watch a Tyranid get its head ripped off in 50 creative ways over the course of an hour or so. But I honestly like Space Marines not as like background characters, but not point of view, because like they're reprogrammed weapons of people. And when we go to their point of view and they're just people but taller and bigger, it's like I'm losing this like this idea of these monastic like monk like battle brothers who
Would
are still
you
nonetheless beyond and also removed from humanity.
would you prefer them to be like a force of nature where they turn up occasionally?
Yeah, like not so unknowable as like like in theory the Eldar should be, but like again like you are so separated from humanity that has been robbed of you because again they are child soldiers.
Because I
I
got to be honest, I went through I recently went through the first of the Iron Snakes books, and I really liked how it's ADB, so it's going to be good.
yeah.
And he did a really good job of establishing their homeworld, their rituals, their mindset. And then I started Urdesh, like the one of two parters, where it's so cocky. It's like it finishes the first one and goes, "This will be continued in the second book." I'm like, it shouldn't. This was rubbish. Like I got through that book and I'm like, I all the love I had of the Iron Snakes, I lost in this book because they were so forgettable, and I don't even remember I don't remember what happens in that book because they were just carbon copy space marines that just did space marine things. I'm like, oh, they lost all their character, all their charm. They're just there, and they're like, I am a space marine, and I could be any chapter, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, Saint Sabat, hello, I am a space marine. I'm like, oh, you're dull now. Go out, go away, go where we were. Go
Yeah,
where
that's
we were.
fair. I don't. It's the problem with giving them character and like motivation and like personality like that is that I feel like they stop becoming. It's very hard to make them super like Titanic beyond human beings. Not impossible. You can make that like kind of super soldier thing, like where they still feel human but detached. But I don't know the reason.
Do you know what they often? It's why I like a lot more of the earlier Horus Heresy novels, and they kind of don't get this as much, despite being like chapters. They don't have as many like human perspectives into like viewing this, like you said, like the Space Marine from the outside. Whereas, so when you read like the Horus like Heresy books in the early ones, particularly, it's like half human, half Space Marine perspectives, and then when you're the humans, and then you get to like the example would be like in Horus Rising when the Remembrancers get to they get to go down to like a planet to like you get to witness the Space Marines finish clearing up a planet, and then they get to walk through, and then they see the Space Marines fight. It's like that's one of the first few times I've ever seen them fight, and they go like, "Oh my god, that was horrific! What like I can't believe we call these guys heroes. They're just like." It's like a bulldog with a chainsaw, like it's a horrific beast of a thing. And I think that's maybe what's missing. Like if you're too much in like Space Marine stories where it's like I said, like just POV, I am Titus, I'm only Titus. You don't get to be scared of the Space Marine because like you are the Space Marine. So I think the idea of like if it more like when I listened to the Iron Hands book, or sorry, I read it. It's not an audiobook. The Iron Hands books are actually me and Andy are quite big fans of those ones because they have parts in it which like make the Iron Hands seem like such bastards.
Yeah,
and
they
have
no compassion. They're just like calculus is you're screwed. Off I go. Oh,
but
okay.
But they're dismissively cruel not because they like to torture people, but because there's no value in normal human life. There's nothing in them.
Do you remember that exchange Cardan Stronos when he's like a sergeant, he's on Medusa, and there's like a kid he's fighting like an animal in like a betting game, and he's all like, "Oh, I don't really enjoy this, but here's his mistakes and here's why I can't help him." And he was just very matter of fact. He wasn't malicious. He was just like, no, here's why this is bad, and this is why he's going to die, and this is why it's not your fault. But he wasn't like, I'm going to mourn this child who died in this like essentially like pit fight. He was just like, no, here's how he died, this is why he died. I'm not going to mourn him, but I'm also not happy about this. And Iron Hands, everyone. They're just calculating about it. The calculus of battle.
That still is one of my favorite scenes in like a Space Marine novel, which is the what they called again, the the guardians of the Iron Council,
The Morlocks.
not the
Oh
Morlocks,
no, the Hellfathers. Sorry,
Hellfathers. When Cardan Stronos sees a Hellfather, because he's the
that's wrong.
yeah, because he's with another human character. He speaks like a Mechanicus adept, I think, in the scene. He's not a dickhead, but he's just like speaking to them, and they both see a Hellfather. Which, for people listening, a Hellfather is like this guy in like a Terminator suit who they never leave the armor because they're not sure how much is bionic and how much is human inside. And they've undergone this process where they literally turn themselves like into kind of a like an upgraded servitor, but like there's no human emotion within it. And they are genuinely like even when the other Iron Hands are around them, they're like, that thing is terrifying. It has no humanity at all, and they just like look at you, and all of them are terrified of them because they're like, that thing is just a weapon. It is a weapon, and it's horrifying, and it's upgraded, and it's got
and this
cool
is kind of where I'm
stuff.
like, I'd prefer it if the Iron Hands just became all Hellfivers. Like, what if all the chapters just became this like byword of like, oh, as far as the Imperium's concerned, the chapter's dead. But it's now just like an undead, not Legion of the Damned, but an undead chapter that's being fueled by technology. It's doing its own thing. It's not working with the Imperium. It just turns up now and again, and it's like an ill omen. It's like a reminder, like, that's a legion. That's a chapter that lost their Primarch, like the Blood Angels. They have no direction, and their bitterness, their need to improve, got the better of them, and therefore the end result was they became a chapter of automatons. They don't play by rules. They don't have a Codex Astartes approach anymore. They just repair and rebuild themselves. They fight, and they don't even realize what they fight anymore for. They just must fight, must fight, must fight. And if anyone gets in their way, they get in their way and they get in the crossfire. But like I feel like that's where the Iron Hands should be. Don't have characters, just have like a weird faction that's completely logic driven. That do that with the Iron Hands. Why not? Why not? That'd be
There's
cool.
also, we don't see enough of like Space Marines quelling rebellion. I would love it if it was just like, oh, there's a secret chaos cult, and it turns out there was no chaos cult. They were just people who were like trying to like have a better life. They're like, that's illegal. That's just illegal. Like, there's not enough time where like sometimes the Space Marines are too much like the heroes. They are protagonists. They shouldn't be the heroes. You know what I mean? Like the idea, like, yeah.
I do to some extent get why that is, right? Because for the most part, people don't want to read a book where their protagonist, right, is just, hello, infant child, step. It's usually not what people are into, but that kind of thing is what I was trying to say earlier, where it's like when you humanize them like this, and they lose that like transhuman dread, which I think is another thing. Like, people look at Space Marines, and if they don't feel awe, they feel fear over like, what do you move like? How do you do that?
And another interesting thing that Voldemort said is like, because they're the post boys of the setting, therefore they're used as the yardstick of like the average faction, whereas what they should be is an elite faction. Like, guardsmen should be like the standard, orcs comparable, tower comparable, but because Space Marines are the poster boys, therefore they are treated as like the normal. Like, Space Marines are the average, where really no, they should be above that. But because everything is based around Space Marines, you then have to add like I guess an element of like, well, the Tau, even though they're comparable to humans, we have to like rejig some of the power scaling. And I think that's also like a thing of, if Space Marines are so prevalent in the setting, they're going to be seen as the bog standard unit, even though they're canonically not, they're lore wise not. And so therefore everything else has to unnecessarily be upscaled, and therefore it kind of messes with the cohesion all the factions have with each other. Which again was his point of like, if they were disposable, where a captain is just some guy that's going to die, he's going to die, and it doesn't matter what his name is or his story is, because he's going to die anyway. That kind of feeds into that. But now that every captain, every sergeant, every lieutenant has a book or a video game tie-in or whatever, it adds that element of, oh, we can't kill these characters off because we all remember what happened to Chiron being killed off in a community post, and then was like, oh no, Chiron, I loved him.
I'll be honest, I was
Oh.
not that sad.
How
I was not that sad.
I wish they killed Gadriel instead. No, Chiron. Wait a minute.
Chiron died.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Gadriel the other one.
Yeah, no, pardon me.
Yeah, I think we
Wait,
all
no,
in the game.
No, wait. Oh no,
in the
hang
game,
on, I'm silly.
They should have killed one of them in the game at least.
Yeah, but that would have made the co-op awkward.
Kill them at the end.
Yeah, that's true. In the final cutscene or something, that could work.
Yeah, I think sometimes with like it's that thing of when you're like, again, we probably mentioned a bit earlier, but like with Space Marine stories, once like one of the better ones of all time that people will always come back to is Hell's Reach. And I believe like only like Grimalda's and only one other guy, like the Tech Marines, the ones that survive. Like they're not brave enough to, you know what I mean? Like it's a war zone. But like the part I was also going to get to is that the thing about like you can have the Space Marine characters that are like you do learn their perspective and they're interesting, but the overarching villain should always be the war machine that is the Imperium of Man. And in some way, like the Space Marine character, like the in the Dark Imperium trilogy, there's one point in the third book where they're literally trying to like do a secret mission and they have to cross this like Nurgle infected landscape, and they find these civilians in a church, and the civilians start like making noise because they're like happy the Space Marines are here, and they're telling them like to be quiet. But then they start making too much noise because they're like, we're not here to save you. So then the Space Marine, like they're going to make too much noise, they're going to attract the Nurgle demons. So the Space Marines end up killing the civilians. Like that part in the book is like, yikes. But like that's the perfect encapsulation of like they're not, you know what I mean? Like they weren't the heroes necessarily in that moment, but they were the heroes in the overarching part of that campaign. Because later on they go to like fight. Is it Kuga? Maybe it's Kuga. I think it's one of the greater demons of Nurgle. So
in Godblight.
Yeah, in Godblight. So
yeah, that's good.
Is a good and that's not too old that lore necessarily, but I guess it's 10 years almost now. But like it shows an example of like, you know, you know what I mean? Like if someone's too much of a clean cut good hero, you don't get the aspect of like the universe is as horrible as it seems. I think that's where it gets eroded and people are like, oh, you know,
it's too shiny.
Yeah, you know, like I said, like make it make sense. You know, make it all match up a bit. Nice. So other than we get two more dog counters now. We have pictures of dogs in the background framed. Moving back onto the next section, we could start going into Chaos. Now, this might be a bit more difficult because Chaos kind of already does Grimdark quite well, I'd say mostly. Like, do I think about, you know, there's iconic artworks where they have like the 4 different versions of like the Chaos Marines, and then they're like a bit old school. So they have like the Tzeentch Sorcerer, the Noise Marine, the Khorne Berserker, and the Nurgle guy. Like is it a Nurgle guy? Is there a Nurgle guy? But I just remember like the Noise Marine guy, and that, God, that's horrifying, that picture, if you know what I'm talking about. That one is disgusting.
Yeah, it's
I think as well, like I know like for the tabletop, the things are all painted in heavy metal style because they're like to sell a product, they're just showing you the basics of it. But like going through like Chaos itself, like Chaos is quite good, and I really enjoy like the fact that Chaos itself can be quite like, it's just haunting. And like even being a chaos worshiper, like I know that basically the litmus test for this thing is basically the Demonculava. I don't know how you guys feel, but like should anything ever get worse than that? Because I do remember, like,
Yeah.
years ago, I heard the Luton video about talking about what it was. And I think I was a bit younger, but I was like a bit younger. I was listening to it, and I remember thinking that genuinely sounds horrible. That made me feel weird listening to that the first time. I'm probably a bit desensitized to it now, but I don't know what you guys. Did you have any initial thoughts or reactions to that? God, they both look contemplating that. Wow, hollowness apparently absolutely hollow.
I mean, it's the thing is about that. I find that bit of lore a bit like what a 13-year-old thinks is like edgy. There's
Yeah.
much worse things you could do because it's like, oh, in the grand scheme of things, it's a horrible thing that happens to a few people. But like, if you can properly describe like a global plague that kills billions and is getting to the point where like there are sores and pustules and people are dying and relatives and blah, like that's way more horrific than like a few people being turned into like skinless
Haha,
Space Marine clones.
up your hoo-ha, hee.
Yeah. So he. Oh, I did those gribbly. At a certain point, it's
It's
like they're like even things like the idea of playing with feasting on a person's immortal soul and doing all that. Like even the guy who's like in the Godblight books, Hal, who gets folded in on himself again and
Oh yeah,
again and can't die and is reset and again. That one is so like well described. It's horrific when you go. I can't remember who wrote that. Was it Graham? It wasn't Graham, was it? Whoever wrote that, I'm like,
oh,
dude, what's wrong
Godlike
with
is
you?
Guy Haley.
Guy,
yeah.
it's like, guy, what happened to you? Why did you do this? We
He's
didn't
the
need
guy.
to. We didn't need to know how to like, that thing where they say you can only fold a piece of paper so many times. He did that to a person. It's like, dude, what's wrong with you? See a
I think
psychiatrist.
I
We
think
didn't
it's
need
like
that.
the guy gets over bloated and then he starts to shrivel up to the point where like his skin and bones start cracking.
Yeah.
And then like but the point he starts folding in on himself because he's so like his moisture just got absolutely yeeted out of his entire system. So like it's a pretty horrific way to go. I think for the most part, like Slanesh stuff, I know obviously to be fair, like I don't want to go down that road necessarily. Slanesh does it quite well. Obviously, Nurgle stuff does. Korn, I mean, I don't know how to fair. Like a god of murder, or not really a god of murder, like a god of war slash, killing and stuff like it's not really as scary. I think like some people have described like when you in some stories they make world eaters pretty terrifying. But again, like I don't know if I maybe just like I've read so much Warhammer that
Like,
I'm just like
I
desensitized to it.
I feel like if you're a clever writer, you could do a whole thing with like a siege plot where it's like imagine the worst like real life account you've ever had of someone who's had Alzheimer's, and then you play that into a story where a person just keeps like forgetting and misremembering, and then there's repercussions with other people, and there's a whole siege in play. Like that could be way more horrifying than like I skinned you. Like yeah, it would hurt a lot, and that's pretty horrific. But when you got like the Night Lords do it, the World Eaters do it, lots of people do it. And what is like it's like oh, it's a bit one note. Whereas like if you could have like a whole plot of like like something like Old Boy, the Korean version, not the American one. Like if you had like a Sinchian plot that was like Old Boy, and it was on like 11 out of 10, I feel like that'd be way more horrific than oh, you just skinned Night Lord skin people. That's ooh. So yeah, okay. Another skin cape. Add some layers to it.
I think with Chaos Eye, the only things that generally I thought was quite a terrifying idea on the Chaos perspective is like in the Heresy when Malkador was speaking to his little like tortured poor servant who just like keeps getting made and then just to be his like therapist. And then I think he says to this person that when people die, they just get devoured by the war. Like every single person. Like I guess in 40k, maybe do they go to the Emperor's side? Who knows? But it was a thing like he describes like basically the horrifying truth of the universe is that when every single person dies, their soul goes into the warp. And I think that means that they're basically prey. So, I think the idea of like that comes up a bit more prevalent. That can be quite an interesting take because the like what makes like grimdark universes so like the idea of what you make like as a grimdark universe is like basically the whole I may be wrong here, but like, the whole point is like being dead is being better than being alive in it. Is that like the
Yeah.
kind of
I
that's the whole thing?
what is it that person mentioned? OSP. What they mentioned is like it's like Grimdark is like when you put a hero into a Grimdark setting, something needs to break if because either it's going to stay Grimdark and what breaks is that hero, or they can still be heroic and it's no longer Grimdark because you've got a superhero running around saving the day. And and kind of like building on that, it's like for Grimdark, it like at least my ideal image is like a happy ending is not on the horizon. Like there, and anything you do is, if not meaningless, then like delaying the unhappy end that's going to happen. Like there is no recourse, there is no saving the day. And that needs to, apply to everyone. Like, even chaos isn't going to ever get its big victory because the Imperium's going
Yeah.
to hold it to a standstill. But flip side, the Imperium's churning through lives and, different practices, both necessary and unnecessary. And it needs to be shit.
It's the trouble with like such a large setting for chaos specifically is like they need to have wins reliably, otherwise they seem impotent. And right now, we need Armageddon to fall. We need like something tangible. Like Cadia was a good start, but unless Chaos can get like some tangible wins, unless like Tyranids had that whole thing with like the fourth Tyranid where they were like, hey, vote which planet. Who is it going to be, the Ultramarines who win or the Tyranids win? And it was the Tyranids that won because people were fed up of Ultramarines winning and Space Marines winning. We need to have more tangible, like, hey, we're getting closer to the throne world, and maybe it's like a push back and a push forward and a push back. But like right now, it's like, oh, Armageddon, oh, okay, Cadia's gone. Oh, I thought that was a big deal. It doesn't seem like it because Cadia's gone and Terra's okay. Like the stakes aren't moving. And Cicatrix Maledictum was good because it cut the galaxy in two, but also it's like, well, half the galaxy is on the throne world side, the other half isn't. So like the Nihilist side, who gives a shit? It's like, oh, Nihilist. It's like the Wild West.
Yeah, we've almost heard nothing, as in like
Yeah.
perspective wise from that
Like,
region.
Calgar's here. Oh, what again? Oh, I thought he was doing Vigilus. No, he's done that. Oh, okay. Ultramarine victory, I guess. Cool.
I think a lot of the chaos stuff, they do it quite well, and a lot of the Grimdark stories, or like even the Emperor's Children models. Also, I think the most recent releases, they are pretty on point. I'd say like a lot of that other stuff looks good. As always, you can kind of paint your models the way you want to, but I think particularly it's why I particularly have a love for like word bearer stuff. The word bearers are the ones which like I love because they generally are terrifying because they just basically at the end of the day go, listen, I'm gonna torture you because it works. And they just go, if I do this to you, a little bit of demon power will work for me. So I'm just gonna do it to you. And I know like you probably like thinking I'm like hateful, I'm cruel. No, I'm just gonna do it because I'm gonna get something out of it. And like that's even more terrifying. It's like like not to get like too historical, but like they show like they talk about like World War II or other kind of history things. The people who often did like the most horrific stuff were just like they when they interviewed them, they didn't find them to be like really like vindictive,
Oh,
cruel people. They
there's
just
that film. What's the
regular
film
people.
where it's like there were the guys who lived next to Auschwitz, and therefore they were just like doing the laundry and they were like
Oh
they'd hear
yeah.
the scream, but they didn't acknowledge it. I can't remember what the film's called, but it's just like, oh, they desensitized themselves, and they were just like, oh, it's just normal now. It's like, is it? No, it's not normal.
Yeah. word bearers are terrifying because they just they like they just do it, and they're like I'm not doing this because it makes me happy. Like I'm not doing it, and I'm not like an emperor's children or anything like that. I'm just doing it because it needs to be done. So pretty horrible. I wish they took more of a center stage. Black Legion, shove it up your anus. I don't care. Like let Lorgar return and be a horrible bastard, maybe, and then Korax can kill him. Who knows? That'll be pretty enjoyable. I said before we get any further, rounding up with the Xenos stuff. Okay, guys. So rounding it out, we're going to begin with the Xenos section. Colin, do you want to save Eldar for last, or do you want to go tackle them first?
I mean, the Eldar have done a pretty good job at keeping the Grimdark up because they just keep getting the piss beaten out of them. So yeah, it sure does feel like they are the last survivors hopelessly holding off the end when I read an Eldar blurb.
Life kind of does suck to be an Eldar. Like it really, really sucks. Someone made a point earlier in one of the if you're listening to the remastered version, you wouldn't have heard it, but in the donation, someone made a point about the Dark King thing. And it'd be really cool if someone had an example of like, how like Slanesh, sucks on Eldar souls as soon as they immediately exit the mortal universe. I think that'd be a cool thing if humans had like a dark, like some entity that's like, sucks their soul immediately, but then they didn't, it took a while for them to notice that. But yeah, Eldar, sorry, sticking on the point, Eldar, I mean, life of an Eldar, Colin, pretty bad.
Not great. Actually, funny thing is, like in day-to-day life, craft worlds are pretty damn nice to live in. It's just then the subject of a book happens, and then they all start exploding very violently. And then when they die, they go to super hell.
Do you think they've killed off too many craft worlds at this point? Because it's hard to make, in some way, it more grimdark for the elves.
I mean, I know this is a Warhammer fantasy line, but there was an author who I believe almost word for word said there are as many elves as the plot demands. So, no, I don't think they've blown up too many craft worlds. I think they will never do that, but they will always threaten to do it.
Yeah. I think with Eldar stuff, it is obviously pretty horrific, their lives. It could be an idea of like maybe there's more infighting between craft worlds, but like that almost seems. Do you know what? Like, I think more in the Grimdark future, the idea like that happens a few times in Eldar stories is like they attempt to work with humans because they're forced to work with the Monkai to, do a thing, and then they end up getting betrayed. That's just the way they I think they already do that quite well. So I don't know if that one.
Yeah.
I think of like there's like something on Vigilus, and then Calgar was like, "Yeah, you can kill those people because
that was some properly grimdark stuff. How do we pay this blood debt? Okay, Imperial nobles, come inside this building. There's candy inside, and then they lock the door on the magical space elf murder dungeon.
Oof.
Which deserved.
Yeah. I don't know, speaking of what's already grimdark, is it the Drukhari themselves though? Because I don't know. Sorry, do anyone have any more points they want to add to the Eldar stuff?
They're grim. I feel honestly they're grimdark enough. Good old Yanari plot line of we're gonna save the Eldar race. The last thing you need for that is Slanesh is dangling it between your crotch.
I feel like the thing the Eldar need is they need to make more alliances. Because they're the only faction who's like on the precipice of death. So like they've done stuff with like Dawn of War, for example. But I feel like they need to make uncomfortable alliances. Like we'll make an alliance with the Tau, even though we think that they are like too naive. We need to make alliances with the Necrons because we hate them because they're our mortal enemies, but we need to get one over on the Imperium. Oh, we need to make an alliance with the Orcs, kind of like they did with Dawn of War, but like we're going to try and manipulate them, and maybe then the manipulation fails because orcs are so stupid it kind of counteracts. I think we need the Eldar to be more like the kind of like, oh, we need any help we can get. We can't, because the problem I have with Eldar is when I've read all their stuff, it's like, aren't you guys supposed to be coming to extinction? You seem to be getting on okay. Like they're like the craft world stuff. They're in these like craft worlds, and they seem to be like, I'm still doing poetry. I'm doing all these different paths that aren't combat related, and it seems to be paradisal. And I'm like, aren't you like threading the needle of your own doom? Like, surely there needs to be you need a bit more like of a, I'm not going on a gap year, Dad. I've got to like stop the extinction of my entire race kind of thing.
I would actually, now that I'm thinking about it too, I would say one thing that could keep the Grimdark going and give them credit is have their like plots and schemes actually work, like just work. But then we get a reason why it doesn't matter that they, you know, they pulled off the 10 out of 10 perfect round in the fighting game match, and it just doesn't fucking matter. Instead of the normal thing, which is, you know, again, like Iliad, like, yep, you could have, it would have just unironically worked, but the guy said he doesn't care if you kill a whole chaos god. He just doesn't want you to win right now. I don't care if you win. I need the Eldar to lose. Fucking Kylo Ren, whatever Hux looking ass. Let the Eldar get a win and then explain why it doesn't work. Like, or not work, but why it doesn't matter. Not keep kicking them in the sack and then going, yeah, but they're like, you know, cool still. Buy these minis. It's like, no, I don't want to now.
And the idea of like there's a I think because the Eldar, like there's some of them who like they don't necessarily have hope, but they have like a thing of, I think in some way like the more unity between them is almost like the greatest signal of like the end is near. Like they, you know, like they put aside their, like the fact that they don't have the option to put aside their differences, you know, or that they have the option, sorry, to put aside their differences is like, or whatever the phrasing is, but as in they're like, oh, you know, we're going our own way. It's like, no, you got to band together or it's death. You know what I mean? Like, full send it. You know, crap. Someone's going to destroy our stuff.
I quite like the Harlequin stuff I've read because they are bipartisan. They're like they ally more with the Drukhari because the Drukhari don't care, but they work like Motley's stuff in the Drukhari books. He's like, I'll side with Eldar, Craft Welders, and Exodites, and Drukhari, main because Drukhari are easy. But he's like, I'll side with whoever I need, and he doesn't pick any side because he's like, we need to unite as an entire species. We can't have these different factions. And I really like that because they're the ones who are like, we're the smallest of all the Eldar factions, and yet we're very bespoke. But we can't do it all on our own. We have to like actually make alliances and trick this guy and pilfer from that guy and try to reestablish this power base so that power space can bolster themselves in the future. I really like that. And then it's like, and then Craftworld books, they heard I'm going to be a poet. I'm going to make pottery. Like,
so Mr. Mike of the Grail made a great point that I was thinking of, which is even when we get those moments of like, like something goes well, but then ends up being bad, or like it's just snatched away at the last second.
Yeah.
Captain Artemis, my beloved. You know, like, even when we get that, we kind of like, I kind of low-key hate it.
That's what I mean. It's like, let them have an unqualified win, and it just isn't enough. Like they.
I was going to say, Colin, you can't give Artemis too much flack because just remember, without Captain Artemis doing that, we wouldn't have had the Ynnari. So we wouldn't have had those fantastic Ynnari books.
Of course, yes. I should thank him for that. I should thank him for the trilogy so ass it didn't get to be a trilogy.
Yeah.
God, thank him with a punch in the face. Obviously, I think the Eldar in some way they do Grimdark quite well. Like whenever I learn about anything Eldar, I just feel like depressed, man. And that's obviously what we're going for in this episode. So they do that quite well. Okay, the next one though is let's do orcs.
Necrons. Hold on. I just do Necrons very quickly.
Yeah, go so good.
All right. Necrons, no notes, wakey, flesh and bakey, perfect. Fine. Love them. They're fine.
They do. There is a lot of like grimdark horror with them already that I think is well done. Like when every now and again you're told that, by the way, this guy really wants to breathe. He needs to breathe. Why can't I breathe? And I'm like, all right, yeah, that's horrifying.
Yeah, and only the officer cast matter because all the others are drones. So yeah, no notes. They're fine.
I think I feel like I've read at some point, maybe it was a short story or a blurb in some book, but even that, you also get sometimes like a Necron warrior awakens like,
yeah,
and they have
yeah.
their personality, but they can't like
I have
they
no
have
mouth.
they
Like,
have super locked in syndrome basically. And it's like,
yeah.
wow, I didn't want to sleep
Hmm.
comfortably tonight anyways. Thanks.
And then there's like the destroyers where there's like that one who's like, I'm a prince of this dynasty. He woke up before the entirety of his dynasty was driven mad. Then he was roaming around the halls, killed his friends, and then he became a destroyer lord. And it's like, yeah, that's fun. And it was all a plot by another one from his dynasty who woke him up early intentionally. Like, yeah, they're fine. Necrons are fine. They're grim enough. Yep, I have no notes.
I guess if they wanted one thing, like the guy in the dono said, if make the flare virus a kind of like Halloween esque from
Yeah,
like Dark
if you're an
Souls.
officer and you die, you lose a bit more each time you get.
Yeah, which I think does happen. Well,
I wish it happened with that
Mm.
Helbrecht versus Imhotep battle because I could have used that. Imhotep, he was getting crunked again and again, and he's like, respawn, like, get the Game Shark out of your cartridge, get out of here.
Nah, but see,
Eating
that's
ass,
different. He just had like
eating ass.
Vegeta level arrogance. It didn't matter if he get his ass beat. He's coming back for round 2.
Yeah. Oh, my dad works at Nintendo, said Imhotep. Yeah, fuck you. Get out of here.
Imhotep spent the entire fight just doing the Dragon Ball thumb point foes, which means a character is without fault about to get the floor wiped with them. And then it just didn't matter because he just came back. Hello, Athena.
Ooh, dog.
I like the idea of with Necrons. They have a thing, like Trezin and Orokin. They had a whole, the future of the Necron race. Will you return to flesh, or will we become spirit beings? I like the idea of being like they're both just dead ends. There will never be another Necron, new Necrons. There's only a finite amount of Necrons, and they are only going down, which I think is like more of like a tragedy sort of thing. Yeah. I think, combined with that, if you die too many times, you eventually just become a foot soldier. That'd be pretty cool because it's like pretty sad. It's like, oh, maybe dying is not worth it. Maybe let's try not to die too much. The next one, we did, not too many notes for Necrons, but orcs. Now, this is difficult because orcs funny, my beloved. Red go faster. Princess the Squig. I love orcs being kind of a comic relief in some sense, but I think Andy had a point earlier about you said the orcs should be terrifying from every perspective other than their own, but they should be a bit more. I think we also had someone here said someone in the donation, was it War, who said like they should reproduce normally, which is a hell of a take.
What do you mean by normally? Only normal for us. Looks like I just come from mushroom. That's normal. There's more of us than you. So,
I don't know. I get uncomfortable. There's like, do you remember the first Dragon Age, Andy?
Oh yes,
Origins?
I do. Love that first game.
Do you remember the bit that makes it feel weirdly uncomfy? Is the
Brood Mother?
Yes.
Yes, I knew what you were going to say. As soon as you mentioned Dragon Age, I was like, yeah, the Brood Mother.
It's like a hint, isn't it? It's a hint to something, but like it's not.
Fun fact: there is a Brood Mother in the Lysander books who eats its young. So yeah, grim.
That's one of the few things where I like the idea, if they wanted to make orcs really horrific, they could do something like that. Or basically it's how the Skaven reproduce.
I mean, technically they eat squigs, and squigs are technically orcs because they're just a different subspecies. So orcs already devour their own. They eat Gretchen. Orcs is orcs. They're all mushrooms. They eat each other.
Do you want to explain what I'm talking about, the Brood Mother in Dragon Age, quickly, Andy?
No, I'd rather you do it because you brought it up.
You know what? There's no way doing it because it's so
well, it's like a dwarven lady, right, who goes down to the deep roads and then is captured by the Darkspawn. You thought the Demunculaba was bad. What if it was worse? Hee hee.
Yeah.
It's in the title, Broodmother. Yippee! I love Dragon Age Origins. Why did they have to make it worse with every iteration of Dragon Age? The first one was amazing.
Are you telling me Dragon Vet? What was it called? Something Veil?
Oh, something Veil, yeah. Wolfvale? No, not Wolfvale. Veilguard.
Are you telling me Veilguard was not the best thing you've ever seen?
I'm just saying every game they put out was worse than the last, in my opinion. Like Dragon Age 2 was worse than 1. Inquisition was worse than 2. Veilguard was like it was like a stairwell. It kept going down and down and down.
That's
They nailed it, and then they worsened it.
That's the only game franchise where I legitimately thought someone should go for prison for how much they murdered that. Like,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was an assassination.
Dragon Age 1, you could play as like multiple species who had their own origin stories, and then 2 is like you're just gonna play as this emo guy called Hawk. Oh. And then they're like, we're gonna bring back like all the species, but they're all just kind of the same. There's no backstory, it just doesn't matter. Like, oh. It got worse.
We should do a Dragon Age episode just purely ripping on it.
I'll do a fancy fireside on Origins, and then we'll never talk about Dragon Age again because it was spoiled potential.
Yes, but that would be my thought on how to make the orcs horrifying, because generally that is horrifying to me. Good way of doing it. Tyranids? There's already Gene Stealers, isn't there? There's already...
I feel like they're kind of pretty good. I guess the way to make them grimdark is let them win on screen more. But aside from that, I mean, all-devouring swarm of intergalactic space locusts. It's pretty like just inherently grimdark and messed up and terrifying, right?
I feel like they could take a page out of Dead Space's book where they could be like, maybe have like a collective, like, I know that the like Tigurius has kind of spoken to the hive mind. I want more of like, what is the like objectively highest hive mind? I want more of that, just so it can impress upon all the other characters that it interacts with in the setting how out of their league it is and how terrifying it is. Because at the moment, it's just a bunch of Gribblies. It's just a bajillion Gribblies. And we don't really know any characters because they all die because Gene Stealers get eaten by all the Gribblies. So it's like, oh, I want to have some kind of consciousness that scares the other characters. That's all I want. Like Fabius Bile in the Blood Angels omnibus captures a neurothrope and it asks one of the Blood Angels to kill it because it's in so much pain. So there's more going on than just primal instinct. It communes with Rathan and his team like, please kill me. I want that. I want more of that. But the only way we're going to get that is if we have the highest hive mind reaching out now and again. So that's kind of the issue.
I think the only way to make Tyranids possibly more grimdark is if it's that whole thing of like, it's confirmed that this isn't the main like force of it or whatever. Like in some way, like it's a theory, isn't it? Like there's more of it. Like we've only seen like a fraction of it so far. Just straight up, just be like, yeah.
Or even there's the archivist who's a Zoat who works for the Tyranids, but he's a different species. Like characters that are intermediaries, agents, people who are indoctrinated by the Tyranids as a mediator. I want to see more because that's the only way you can have them be fleshed out. Pardon the pun. But like the only way to flesh out the Tyranids is have a common ground between them and the other characters to facilitate that. Kind of like remember when like the alien game came out? I think it was Alien versus Predator, and there was a character who had like a little alien in his chest, and he had like a weird like mask and everything. He's like, I communicate with the aliens. You need someone like that. And they wasted him because he died in the same cutscene, I think. But it was like, you need some bridge of that gap to make them more compelling.
Reminds me like there's like the Darkspawn thing in Dragon Age again. There's like the weird, not emissaries, are they? They're like something else, aren't they? Like the weird sentient Darkspawn, like proper sentient ones.
The ones who invaded heaven. Yeah, like the, can't remember what they're called, like Corypheus. Like the guys.
Oh, no, I mean like, there's like an enemy type, I think, or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I've not played. I don't know.
They were good. They were good.
First game, peak.
I'll say that I had a cool idea, which like now we've hit most of the main factions. If you had any more, by the way, please do comment on the video because we'd love to hear any of your suggestions for stuff because there's plenty of opportunity here.
Sorry. thought you were
No,
done.
you go. It's fine. You go.
I say, did I like hard zone out for it, or did we just kind of collectively just and unspokenly agree we can just leave the Dark Eldar alone?
Well,
we said they were grimdark enough.
they were in Eldar.
I thought that was it, but I would say okay.
They're fine. Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah.
They do what they do.
My last 2 points were grimdark, nuke the Leagues of Votan immediately in one go.
That's not grimdark. You just want them exploded.
I knew you were going to say. I literally thought, when are we going to talk about the Votan? And they said before that, and I thought, oh, here we go.
I have no notes. No notes. Immediately nuke every Votan child. Sorry, they're not there's no Votan children. They're all grown. Nuke every Votan from existence. Eat your heart out, Arthur Bones. And my last one is, I wish there was another faction other than Tau, because Tau is like, almost forgot Tau there for a second. And guys, we have any notes for Tau? I don't know if there's anything to do with Tau.
I think Tau's progression has to be pit their naivety against the reality of the setting, and have them continually lose their morals as they realize every species that followed the Eldar gets worse and worse and worse, because that's the only way they can survive. Like, humanity sucks, had a meteoric rise and then a calamitous fall because they didn't have a choice, to an extent of like, oh, we're kind of screwed anyway. There's already a big rip in reality called the Eye of Terror. We've already got the Necrons, the Eldar, the Dark Eldar. We've got the Orcs already. We've got Chaos. We've got everything to deal with. Every species that follows gets a worse deal. And so the Tau have to be like, right, we have to abandon maybe compassion, then maybe mercy, then maybe we have to abandon, like Tau rights. And then it's a continual, like, begrudging acceptance of, oh, if we want to not be slaughtered, we can't be no good no more.
Yeah. Even if they don't do that, their grimdark can be like the contrast. It's like, look, we have like, even if you make them like totally unironic good guys, right? Here's the Star Trek Federation. They're great. Yeah. It's lovely. Come be peaceful. And then you zoom out just an inch, and it's like, oh, you're like a percentage of the galaxy. Yeah. You're so fucked.
Have a story where it's like, we are not going to abandon our morals. Let's see how well that works out for you. Like, that could be a story arc. That could be a faction arc of like, we'll never abandon our ideals, and say, well, guess what? You're doomed to perish. And that could be their thing. But it's like, it underlines the setting. And then it could be like, oh, unlike the Eldar who scrapped with their fingernails to try and survive, the Eldar willingly embraced annihilation rather than become monsters. That could be their thing. They could be humble right to a fault, but there has to be a cost, I think. So that would be interesting.
I was gonna end it on, I had an idea for another faction, like a dark version of the Tau, which is, or there's loads of minor like Xenos factions in Warhammer that are kind of interesting. Like, God, I blanked it there massively. Then I was thinking of
the Trust, the Felonids, the Longshank. Well, they're abhumans. The Oretti. There's the
one to give it the Frud. Sorry, the Frud was what I was thinking.
Frud. Yeah.
Other ones, like, I like the idea of there's a faction that is not chaos, but like, they come to an understanding of like life in the universe of Warhammer is fundamentally not worth it. So the idea of this faction is to simply gather a force large enough to basically end all of existence, to stop the cycle. And not like chaos and like sacrifice of the war. I just mean end chaos too. Like, like the Cabal said, like, if you kill all humans, it'll like, supposedly save all the other species. Just do that. Just have like a faction that they just like, you know what, guys, let's just all end it. so that'd be pretty cool. That's pretty grimdark and pretty horrific. I guess other than that, though, I think that's most of the factions done. I think that's that's most of it. That's how we grimdarked it up as best we can, obviously without 100 hours prep time. Not going to throw babies into a meat grinder or anything like that. We're not getting that stupid. But we did have some minis of the week. I think we had some from the previous episodes, also previous things, but we've also got some for this episode because you guys have been. Again, if you want to join our Discord, that's where you can watch the live streams unedited, and that's all the donation stuff is. Check out our Discord, and then we have our little channels where there's people submit their tabletop stuff.
Yep.
We've each chosen a selection. What we got first, Andy?
So the first one is the one that you chose. This is from Saint Wagons. Can you tell us about this one, Hal?
Look at how that slaps you in the face, doesn't it?
It's got a lovely contrast.
That is particularly the I don't know, was it the nodules or whatever it's called, on his hands, which go feed into his massive gun. That is pretty cool.
This thing fucks.
That is a silhouette. This model.
If also well painted white always is just incredibly impressive to me because I'm so shit with painting white.
It kind of also reminds me of a molten, you've got the molten orange, you've got the white ash, and you've got the charcoal black. It's it has all the elements of a cohesive color palette of it's like a fiery molten eater in it thing. It looks good, and the contrast
it makes me want to paint my some of my new models white because that's really good. I really enjoy that, man.
Yeah,
really good.
Subtle bits of gray.
I know it's this
Cole's enjoying this.
Chef's kiss.
He's Buzz is a good painter. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you.
Colin, this one is from Fat Man Kitchen.
Oh, hello.
What's up with this one? You mentioned
we have this is what by the way, when I said I was trying to find the name of something, we have here our nice this is a battle mech. I know this is a battle mech. I think it's a chameleon. But I don't know for certain. Either way, I love it. It's got that retro paint scheme, and I think it's done quite well. Especially I like the little how bright it is, but at the same time, you've got the little the white on the cockpit window as if it's it's the light reflecting off of it. I like it. It's very simplistic but very well done. I like minis like that. In that older style, that heavy metal style, I think they would call it, or even outside of Warhammer, just that 80s, 90s, very bright, flashy style. And this is well done. Please someone tell me what this fucking mech is. Almost positive it's a chameleon, but I don't know. And that took me in the background 45 minutes of just scrolling through the BattleTech wiki, looking at pictures of mechs to try and figure out what it
kind of has that. It looks like an old Rogue era Rogue era Titan, but also the way it looks, it's they made those suits for ladies in the 70s, 80s that had the big shoulders to make them more masculine. It's got that thing with the trousers and the gun. I'm that's pretty fun. It's the big puffy shoulders.
Nice reflection.
And this is my pick from
I also
Mr.
saw
Ivar.
that one. This one is also just
yes.
This is the opposite end of the spectrum where there's so much goddamn detail.
Jesus, that sword.
It's a Zeus. Thank you. Sorry.
It's a Zeus. I one thing I love about this one is the little lantern in his left hand. It looks glowy, and so that's now on the foot, and so you can see the blue light on it. I'm that's so well done. It looks like it's glowy. That's so good.
Damn.
And of course, the contrast, the bloody, and we all love the sword cleaner. Everyone loves the sword cleaner. It's our favorite mini side character in all of Warhammer. It's the sword cleaner. What's his job? He cleans the sword. Poor orc. And the orc looks gribbly as well. He looks completely messed up.
That sword cleaner is definitely putting in the work right now.
And I like how pristine Helbrecht and the sword cleaner are, and then how crusty the orc is. He looks it looks like the sword cleaner has put the work in to keep Helbrecht nice and shiny, and then the orc just shows the talent of the painter to be like, oh, but this is what the result is of before the cleaning. It just looks, oh, I love it. It's really good. Well done, Mr. Ivar. That's good stuff.
I think we also had a question of the week from the previous weeks. I don't remember what the previous question was. I don't think I was there for that episode, unfortunately.
It is unfortunate, but not to worry. We have greatest of best good questions of the week. It was simply #Thankwall. What setting are you tossing them into? There's quite a few good answers for this. I'm going to start off with a short one by Alex AU. I'd plop Thankwall in the Total War. You hear me? Creative Assembly. So true. So true. Where is he?
Where's our boy?
We have Bennis DD. Just tossed a little bastard into the Elder Scrolls. He'll blunder his way into recreating Skaven from Skeevers, pick clean every Dwemer ruin, then cause Blackreach to cave in, swallowing several old capitals. There's a city called Skaven in the Elder Scrolls, fun fact. His capital in the waiting is right there. I think it's in Hammerfell.
I need to check the maps. Oh my god.
I only know that because I bought like from a Renaissance fair. They had a map of Tamriel, and I was looking at it. I was like, "What are you doing there? Why is there a town called Skaven?"
Is Elder Scrolls 6 ever going to come out, Colin?
No. But
Not before
Skyrim will
GTA
10 more times.
Yeah.
They had a trailer for it 7 years ago, is it now?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Trailer.
A 10-second teaser or something. I was announcing they were thinking about working on it.
I got to be honest. I saw the trailer yesterday for Stranger Than Heaven, the prequel to Yakuza, set in like the 1913 to 65. There's a time span, and Snoop Dogg is in it. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about GTA 6 or Elder Scrolls. I don't care. Give me that. Give me Snoop Dogg in a Yakuza game. I don't care anymore. Let's go.
Yeah. We got a few more. Velpress. I would put the funny rat into Lord of the Rings. Imagine Sauron's reaction when he finds the ring has been stolen from Gollum or the Fellowship by a rat who would trade it for magic crack. That's pretty good.
Bruh.
And then the last one from Exported Cheese.
Wow, that's a good name.
I would send him to Blizzard's office for killing my turtle.
There's a backstory there.
There's lore to that one. I'm sorry to hear that happened.
Oh, bro.
We don't have time to unpack all that.
This trauma should stay in its box for now.
I think a lot of people have sent packages to Blizzard, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, when they sent all the... not as a Blizzard to Bethesda when they had like a bunch of bottle caps when 76 came out.
Like, here, weigh this.
Hey, weigh this. It's like, yeah.
Just don't send Blizzard any breast milk.
Nope, don't do that. Anyway, that was making Warhammer Grimdark.
So we need a question of the week this week.
We do.
Charles, we could just... How would you make
Hashtag
40k...
Grim.
Yeah, hashtag Grim. How would you make 40k Grim, but give the wrong answer? Like, don't give an actual proper answer. Like just give me an answer which makes absolutely no sense. So Eli has to read it out next time. But like, what did you guys even talk about? So yes, how would you make 40k more Grim? Completely wrong. Completely wrong.
Yeah, like just start yapping about like Unicron or something. Or something, just total nonsense.
Like how you just opening up like a dog petting shop or something. Like just completely confuse him.
Yeah.
So he's not ready for it. That being said, though, thank you guys everyone for listening, for watching. Of course, you want to check us out offline and Spotify and other parts. And obviously do it on the Discord, because then you can be involved and get, access to offline, our streams unedited, with the donations and all that funny crap we say, you make us say all the time. And we'll catch you guys all in the next one. Peace.
Bye, everybody.
I knew your face was waiting for that.
Well done, Carmen.
Yeah! Unlimited power.